Hello, I'm Alison Bale of Mind Insight, and thank you very much for joining me today for this short video on the topic of how the mindfulness attitude of patience can help you when you're living with chronic pain. We have a saying, that good things come to those who wait. Well, honestly, if you've been living with chronic pain, you might feel you've already had to wait far too long. Chronic pain is defined as any pain that's gone on for more than 3 months. And the thing is, most tissue damage heals within a 3-month time frame. So that's not really any consolation if you're one of the 30% of people worldwide who are living with chronic pain right now. Now, some of you will have a diagnosis. It might be fibromyalgia, or it might be an autoimmune disorder like rheumatoid arthritis. Some people have ongoing pain from previous tissue or nerve injury, which has continued to hurt beyond the normal healing time. And you know what? Some people seem to develop chronic pain that just appears really to come from nowhere. Although the recent research would indicate that ongoing pain might be caused by a nervous system that's become overreactive. And honestly, there can be an overlap between those different causes and those different categories. The thing is, whatever your diagnosis and wherever you are in your journey with chronic pain, the way you relate to your experience, the way you feel about yourself, the way you talk to yourself, and the actions you take as a consequence, they all contribute to either reducing your pain or maintaining it and possibly making it worse. So having said all of that, what can you do about it? Well, patience is one of the attitudes of mindfulness that it can be really helpful to bring to your experience. Learning anything, it unfolds at its own pace, and it really helps to be patient with yourself. And indeed to be patient with others. And there are a number of direct ways that you might use the attitude of patience to help you deal with chronic pain. Being patient with yourself, it encourages us to adopt certain attitudes towards our experience. So for example, for a lot of people, there's this frustration around this idea that I should be better by now. And that's understandable thinking. But it's also a type of thinking that can increase the stress on you. And oddly enough, when you increase stress, you also potentially decrease or slow down the rate at which you heal and recover. What we're really doing with mindfulness is we're retraining the brain, we're retraining it out of habits of thinking that are not helping you into habits of thinking that do support you. The thing is, that takes time. It's at least 2 months worth of regular, consistent effort to start to create changes in the brain that are visible on MRI. And when we're impatient with ourselves, we're not present to the here and now. We're typically always a bit preoccupied with a when I feel better I will type of thinking. And unfortunately, that type of thinking also tends to promote anxiety, that rushing off into the future attitude, rather being with what you're dealing with here and now. And increased anxiety tends to be associated with more pain. When you can bring patience to yourself, you can also more easily keep faith when progress is perhaps not as fast as you would like it to be. Because, to be honest, sometimes the benefits of practicing mindfulness don't necessarily show up immediately. They can take time to show up in your life. And trusting and keeping faith with yourself is part of getting to that point. And you know, when you show up with patience for yourself, you also take some of the pressure off you. You are you, your journey and your rate of progress is yours alone. It doesn't have to compare with or compete with anyone else's. And having said all of that about how patience can help you, what I'm now going to talk about in the next section is some ways that you can practice patience and you can grow the skill even when you have pain. No two people in pain are quite the same. And given that you've made it this far through the website and you've made it this far through the video, you probably already know that quick fixes are not really a thing. You might also already realise that there isn't a one-size-fits-all. So when you bring patience to yourself and your experience, you also bring greater compassion to yourself. And when things don't go quite the way that you thought they might, you know what, you're more likely to persevere because you're more likely to bring a bit of gentleness to your own experience. So I'm now going to share with you 5 ways that you can practice patience in your everyday life. Opportunity 1 is to get comfortable with waiting. You know, we all have times when we're in a queue, whether we're in the shops, in the supermarket, or we're in our cars. Embrace the opportunity to wait and look around you. What do you see? What can you hear? What can you touch? Is there anything you can taste? If you do nothing else next time you're in a queue, take a conscious breath, and that's just a breath that you're aware of. It's an opportunity, being in a queue, to practice being rather than doing. Another way to bring greater patience into our lives is about listening more than you speak. Most of us have a tendency to be a bit impatient when we want to make a contribution. So I'm going to suggest a practice to help you listen better. And that's the next time you're listening to someone talk, see if you can keep 50% of your attention out of your head and in your body. You might want to just have a sense of your feet on the floor or your hands in your lap. You choose what works for you. But the thing is, our brains tend always to be on, so when we are ostensibly listening to someone else, our minds tend to be running off somewhere else. And if you can keep some of your focus on your body, you'll find it easier to stay focused and to listen well. And you know what? The person you're listening to will unconsciously know you're doing it. And it's a gift to yourself because you'll form better rapport with the other people in your life. And that's a gift for you and it's a gift for them. Another idea to practice patience is to take up a new hobby. Try something you haven't done before. And in doing it, pay attention to how your mind and your body respond to being stretched in new ways. You know, if you were trying to learn a new language or learn to play a musical instrument, you'd expect it to take time. You wouldn't expect to just pick it up one day and away you go. And see if you can learn to bring more of that acceptance that things take time to any activity that you're doing. Because that in itself, that acceptance, that patience is an act of being mindful. It's also a useful patience practice to slow yourself down. It's an underrated habit to just say to yourself, I'm going to talk more slowly. I'm going to walk more slowly. See what happens when you do. Do you get irritated with yourself? Because you might find that you do. And that in itself is feedback. One of the best ways to slow the brain down is handwriting, and this is why journaling is so often recommended. And it's particularly helpful when you're dealing with pain, because our instinct with pain is to want to push it away and back away from it and not engage with it. And that can make it really quite difficult to fully understand what it is that we are thinking and what it is that we're feeling. If you get into the habit of just writing in a journal what's going on in your mind, what you're noticing in your body, what your thoughts and feelings are, no judgment, just get it out on paper. The act of handwriting, it makes it easier for you to engage with it, and slowing down can bring greater clarity about where you are and also what you need right now to put your body and your mind into a greater state of ease. Because it's only when we notice the stressful habits of thinking that we can actually go, you know, I'm not sure that's true, or I could see that a different way. A final suggestion for practicing patience in your daily life is to become more aware of those circumstances where you tend to be impatient, and you use them for practice. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius says, the obstacle is the way. How do you feel in your body when you're impatient? Where does it create tension? Where does it create tightness? Where does it create holding? And if you're developing areas of tension and tightness, does that actually increase your symptoms? Or does it numb them? There's no right answer here. But once we notice, once we build awareness, we've got more opportunity to say, that tension's not helping me, so I'm just going to breathe into it. I'm just going to soften into it. And experiment with it. Get curious. What happens if I just allow my shoulders to drop rather than having them up here around my ears? And if you're finding it challenging to put the brakes on these kind of experiences, there is a practice on my website called the Stop Practice, and there's a free guided meditation which you're welcome to listen to. And this can just be a really valuable way of helping just bring a halt to the habitual so that you create space to do something new. I'm not saying for one moment that it is easy to bring patience to chronic pain. But when we're aware of how impatience affects us, it's easier to not increase the pressure that we're under. It gets easier for us to set realistic goals for ourselves and to see them through.